The year is 1934. Turmoil brews in Europe and Asia. Depression ravages America. The world stands on the brink of the most devastating war mankind has ever known. Upon this forbidding backdrop, a small ragtag band of unlikely heroes traverse the globe as they search for fortune, fame, glory, or at times even a way to save the world. The Empire Club.
All right, so JB, when we last left off, the Empire Club player characters were in the Bellerophon, which, as you said, was our Millennium Falcon. That would be the airplane that belongs to the NPC sidekick of your character, Max. The NPC sidekick being Sammy Palermo. Yeah, that's right. So, as we're leaving our last adventure, dealing with the Mongol warriors that were under the thrall of Prince Farouk, who himself was under the thrall of the mummy Orthos Ra, we're in the Bellerophon, and we're taking Prince Farouk back to Egypt when this venomous viper comes out from under the console and bites Sammy Palermo, the pilot, on the leg, causing the Bellerophon to go nosediving over the Atlantic Ocean, and that was the cliffhanger that your co-GM left for you. So we pick up with episode 4, your episode, The Isle of Death. The snake was quickly dispatched, and Max managed to level the plane out. However, the crew found to its dismay that the plane was crawling with serpents. Once Sammy got to his feet, the snake had bitten his wooden leg, he insisted on setting the plane down and pumping the snakes out. The heroes landed on a small island off the coast of Virginia, which, according to their nautical maps, was known as Terminus Island. All right, so let's pause there. So a lot of cool things to talk about in the opening of this. So you're picking it up. You're the GM. And Tom has sent the Bellerophon nosediving over the Atlantic, but you do what all the great serials did. You pick it up, and we're not nosediving over the Atlantic. We quickly dispatch the snakes. Sammy gets up, and he takes the plane, the console, and he lifts the plane back up. And but how did he not die? He had a wooden leg. I remember, as a player in that game, when you did that, you were like, yeah, he had a wooden leg. I was like, that's brilliant. I was like, that's so brilliant.
I was so excited to do that too, because I was like, I know how I had to wait a week to do that. I was like, I know how they got to get out of this.
That was great. That was like just perfect pulp trope right there. So then you have us, then you have us land on this island off the coast of Virginia. So there are a lot of islands off the coast of the U.S., especially down south. There's a lot, and there's a lot of really cool stuff on those islands off the coast of the southern United States. Like I know that in real life, archaeologists found Roman helmets and swords off the coast of the Carolinas, implying that before Columbus, before the Nords, before the Portuguese, quite possibly members of the Roman Empire landed on the Americas. So I think that's fascinating.
A group of I mean, just and a Roman, are they called Trium? One of the big rowing boats, the like dragon boats. Not the dragon boats, that was actually the Vikings, but the huge rowing boats with the big square sails.
Yes.
And, I mean, they weren't meant to be. First of all, they didn't know how to navigate away from Europe. So, I mean, how would they even know them? It's such a great mystery as to how that stuff arrived there. But I don't think I put that in there. But
No,
I did.
You didn't. But I think our point is that there are a lot of great mysteries about the islands off the coast. I mean, you know, the Caribbean itself, the Devil's Triangle. I mean, there's just so much cool stuff going on down there. So you have us land on this island, and you named it Terminus Island, which I didn't know this at the time we were playing it, but I know it now, that there was a 1972 or 1973 movie with Burt Reynolds called Terminal Island, where criminals were put on this island. It was kind of like a penal colony. The U.S. was putting these murderers on, and so, you know, mayhem ensues. And also in the 70s, the 70s was like... So the 60s, in Italy in the 60s, Italian filmmakers were making a lot of cowboy movies, the spaghetti westerns, the Sergio Leone westerns. But when the 60s were over, the 70s were starting to draw to a close. Italian filmmakers started to tire of the westerns, started to tire of making cowboy movies, and they started making cannibal movies. And
cannibals.
Yeah, a lot of movies are cannibals. There is a movie, I'm just going to call it Cannibal Island. I'm not going to say the title of it because it's the second most disturbing movie I've ever seen, and I don't want people watching this video to go look it up because it's too disturbing. I don't want people looking for this movie.
I know what you're talking about.
Yes, yeah. You know the movie. It was made in the late 70s. And there were, I'm calling it Cannibal Island just to refer to it, but there actually were two movies that really were called Cannibal Island. One was made in the 30s or 40s, and it was put together. It was a documentary, and it took footage from the 1920s of a documentarian who was doing a documentary on headhunters in the South Seas. And in the 30s, they put this together as a movie, and they released it as a movie called Cannibal Island. And then in like 2011, another movie called Cannibal Island came out. But anyway, that's besides the point. My point is, there were a lot of in the pulp zeitgeist, cannibals were omnipresent. You know, headhunters and cannibals. This was before political correctness, and so you could kind of do that in the 30s. And as a matter of fact, the 30s movie Cannibal Island, was apparently the inspiration for King Kong, the setting for King Kong. So you land us on Terminus Island, and I'm already giving away a little bit of what's to come, I think, but not really. It's kind of funny. Anyway, so I was always, I mean, not always curious, but when I eventually learned of the movie Terminal Island, I became curious. Like, was that an inspiration for the name of this island?
I think the inspiration for the name of this island was that I think there is a terminal island or a terminus island that's off of one of the sounds in
like Long Island Sound, or
Long Island. I think that's where I got it. But actually, the idea for the island in the back of my mind, and this doesn't actually end up playing up in it, but I think I was thinking of, there is a movie called Little Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. And it is, there's an island off the coast of actually New York, which is further north, where these people go, and it's like an acting troupe that goes out to have like a happening, you know, but it's an island that was used for old burial. And so of course they go and they accidentally summon undead, and they get chased around the island by zombies. But I think I was thinking of that when I thought of this island, but I also knew that there were islands that were in the, you know, over Virginia and off, you know, the South Carolinas, that certainly were not uncharted, but not really inhabited. So I just thought it would be fun to have something. I needed to put them down someplace and have an adventure.
Right,
because of where he'd ended it.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I wanted to have them have to get set down for a little bit and then maybe explore the island. And and then we get into what they find on the
All right.
island.
So let's get into what they find. All right, as Sammy vacated the plane with his bilge pump to roust the snakes. I love it, by the way, that we were doing snakes on a plane like a decade and a half before Samuel L. Jackson.
Snakes on this plane.
As Sammy vacated the plane with his bilge pump to
Oh, we have
roust...
by the way, Sammy Palermo as opposed to Samuel L. Jackson.
There you go.
We have our own Sammy.
We had our own Sammy before that. And Max kept an eye on the prince. The rest of the group explored the island. Benedict and Juliet headed in one direction and discovered a Nazi destroyer, while Sir Heathcliff and Kara headed in the other direction and came upon a rotting slave ship. Evidence from both ships indicated that the crews had evidently been stricken with a strange, madness-inducing malady. A log on the Nazi ship revealed that it had been stationed on Terminus Island to spy on the American shores near Washington, D.C. So I love that the party is splitting up a la Scooby-Doo. We've got, we got Benedict.
They split up and search around in the shadows separately where nobody can hear you scream.
Right. And of course, Benedict is going with Juliet. You had Max stay behind to keep an eye on the prince because that was your player character and you were the GM. So you got him out of the story easily. So Benedict goes off with Juliet because Benedict is sweet on Juliet. And then Sir Heathcliff goes with Kara, and we know that they have a past. So it's like these two couples go in different directions. I thought that was funny. That's actually historically accurate that Nazi ships, U-boats, were spying on the United States off of our coast. I think it was, I think it was off of the coast of New York because I'm pretty sure that the president enlisted the mafia to help look for U-boats.
There were actually time when before we knew we had like a big force, the Nazis would sit out of the ports on the East Coast and catch the Liberty, not the, I guess the Liberty ships they were called, I'm blanking on the word. They would look for shipping that was going across to help out the English, and they would just bag them. I mean, at the beginning of the war, it was like shooting fish in a barrel for them. There was really no way to protect them. We didn't have a lot of ships to protect them, and we didn't know how to defend against the sub tactics at the time. So it was very tough. There was one really famous one where they blew so many ships out of the water in this one group of ships that came out that it was just a massacre. But yeah, I mean that happened all the time there. So of course I made it a destroyer. I didn't make it a submarine, which I think I actually probably should have at the time. I guess I should. I didn't really think of that, but anyway.
Anyway, and also here, it's not Juliet. It's it would be. It would be Benedict and Juliet. They find the log on the Nazi ship, and so I guess they were able to read that. One of them probably read German, which reminds me of the chart in the Champions Book of Languages. So somebody probably, one of those two.
Somebody had something that was related to German.
Something that's related to German. That chart was nuts. I'm going to have to put that up in post-production so that the audience could see this ridiculous language chart that the Champion system uses. All right, so when the explorers returned to the plane, they found Max, Sammy, and the prince gone. Evidence of a struggle, and Sir Heathcliff's expert tracking skills led them to a strange outcropping. Now, this is where we're coming up on the cliffhanger here, but this is where we're going to start to see what you had in mind for this story. And I guess we did so much exploring during the course of the night that by the time we got to the reveal, it wasn't really until the end of the session. And so
I think I timed it a little badly as far as what was going to be for one adventure.
Well, hey, look, but it's going to be an interesting transition when Tom picks it up to see how he builds on your cliffhanger. So before we get to the cliffhanger, are there any recollections of this session that you want to discuss before I read the final cliffhanger?
Well, I had set up the fact that there had been the slave ship, and that was one of the reasons why what was happening on the island, which was kind of comeuppance to the slavers that had ended up washing up on this island, and then of course comeuppance to the Nazis because they die horribly. So yeah, I mean, I had been setting up just what they might find, and I wanted to make it kind of a mystery, but I don't know that anybody guessed what I was getting at until it happened.
Right. So. Well, so interestingly, it never actually happens. I mean, we get a glimpse of what you have in mind in the final cliffhanger line, which I'm about to read, but that is the cliffhanger, and then it's up to Tom, and I'm not so sure that Tom took it in the direction that you were planning. So we're going to have to really have more of a discussion on this next episode when we see what Tom does with this vis-a-vis what it looks like you had planned. But what I liked was, this was the 1990s. We were starting to become more aware of what might be offensive to other cultures, and so we were delving into the pulp genre, but we were as a group trying to be a little bit more culturally sensitive. So the sense that I get is you may have been leading in a direction where we're gonna find like a kind of an Aboriginal tribe on this island, maybe, and they are responsible for something. But I like the fact that the devastation that whatever group of people you had in mind causes is caused to villains. You've got slavers and you've got Nazis, and you set it up like okay, like if there are gonna be tribal people on this island doing horrible things, they're doing horrible things to bad guys. It's like, what was that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, True Lies or something like that, where his wife Jamie Lee Curtis says, "You killed people," and he's like under sodium pentothal. He goes, "Yes, but they were all bad." And so, right. So that's the sense I got that you were going in the direction you were going in retrospect. Of course, I couldn't see it in the moment. So, all right. So here's our cliffhanger. So, Sir Heathcliff's expert tracking skills led them to a strange outcropping. Kara experienced a stunning vision. Remember, she's a Salumbari, a mentalist. Kara experienced a stunning vision of horrible sacrificial rites being conducted. And suddenly, out of the brush, leaping for Sir Heathcliff with its spear raised, leapt a dark silhouette!